fact that the manuscript is written in a way that nobody else could read it suggests that it is preserving knowledge that someone wanted to keep secret.
Somewhere in a climate-controlled vault at Yale University, a book sits behind glass. It is not especially large. It is not especially beautiful. It is 240 worn pages of vellum, handwritten in a language no one on earth has ever spoken out loud. For over 600 years it sat in silence. Scholars studied it. Codebreakers from both world wars attempted to crack it. The greatest minds in linguistics, cryptography, and artificial intelligence all tried and failed. And then something changed. In early 2025, a team of AI researchers made an announcement that sent shockwaves through the academic world. Using advanced neural networks trained across hundreds of languages at once, they had done what everyone said was impossible. They had begun reading the Voynich Manuscript, not just guessing at letters, not just pattern-matching symbols, actually reading it. And what they found inside wasn't a boring medieval herb guide or a forgotten prayer book. It was something far darker, something that left researchers wondering whether they should have looked at all. So, stay with me, because once you hear what was hidden inside this manuscript, you will understand why some experts said the world may not have been ready. The Voynich Manuscript gets its name from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912. But the book itself is far older. Carbon dating places its vellum pages firmly in the early 15th century, somewhere between 1404 and 1438. It was likely composed during the Italian Renaissance, a time of discovery, exploration, and scientific awakening. And yet this book follows none of the rules of that era or any era. The writing runs left to right, the way English does, but the alphabet used, what researchers now call Voynichese, contains between 25 and 30 unique characters that match no known writing system on Earth. The words formed by those characters follow linguistic patterns consistent with a real language, rhythm, repetition, structure. Yet no linguist has ever recognized a single one of them. It was as if someone had invented an entirely new language just for this book, then buried the key. The illustrations are just as strange. There are drawings of plants that no botanist has ever been able to identify. Some appear to be hybrids of real species, roots of one plant fused with leaves of another, as if the illustrator was describing something that existed somewhere else, or perhaps in a time we haven't reached yet. There are detailed astronomical diagrams showing star formations that don't quite match anything in medieval astronomy. And most famously, there are entire pages showing naked women bathing in elaborate pools and channels, connected by strange tubes and pipes, in scenes that feel ritualistic rather than medicinal. For centuries, the theories piled up. Was it a hoax? A prank by a bored 15th century scholar? Was it a secret medical guide, an alchemical manual, or a religious text from a hidden sect? Was it, as some fringe theorists suggested, a message from somewhere beyond our world? Nobody could say, because nobody could read it. The real turning point began at the University of Alberta, where researchers Greg Kondrak and Bradley Hauer applied an AI technique called algorithmic decipherment to the manuscript's text. Their approach was unlike anything tried before. Rather than comparing Voynichese to a single language, they fed their AI samples from over 380 languages simultaneously. They were essentially asking the machine, "Does this feel like anything you've ever seen?" The machine said yes. It said Hebrew. Specifically, the AI identified a pattern suggesting the manuscript might be written in Hebrew, but with a remarkable twist. The letters within each word appeared to have been rearranged alphabetically, a technique called alphagrams. So, the word you see on the page isn't the word itself. It is a scrambled version, letters sorted into a new order, like an anagram, but following strict rules. Once researchers applied that decoding logic, something astonishing happened. Over 80% of the resulting words appeared in Hebrew dictionaries. The first line the AI translated? It reportedly read, "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house, and me and people." Researchers found the sentence oddly simple, almost too ordinary. But that simplicity was exactly the clue that opened the door. From that single sentence, the AI began identifying repeating patterns throughout the text. It recognized references to plants and herbal mixtures. It decoded astrological notation. And then, section by section, it began to peel back the darker layers. By 2025, more advanced neural networks, the kind trained on visual context, not just text, took the Alberta findings further. These systems could analyze both the writing and the illustrations simultaneously, interpreting the manuscript the way a human historian would, as a complete document with words and pictures working together. That is when researchers began to feel genuinely uneasy. What the AI uncovered in the section surrounding the bathing women was not what anyone expected. The decoded text alongside those famous illustrations did not describe simple hygienic practices. Researchers described finding what appeared to be instructions for procedures that modern medical ethics would reject outright. The language, decoded from ancient Hebrew, pointed to practices involving substances and techniques that do not appear anywhere in the official medical history of the 15th century. The manuscript's botanical sections, meanwhile, decoded into descriptions of plant mixtures and preparations that blended known herbal remedies with formulas that seemed to have no historical counterpart. Were these plants that once existed and are now extinct? Were they purely symbolic? Or had someone, centuries ago, documented real knowledge that modern science still has not caught up with? Researchers could not agree. Then there were the sections on magic. Among the decoded passages, according to researchers who have analyzed the AI's output, were apparent references to incantations, rituals, angelic hierarchies, and spells, not the kind of vague spiritual language common in medieval religious manuscripts. Specific, instructional, the kind of text that reads less like theology and more like a manual. One scholar described it as the type of knowledge that feels like it shouldn't exist, detailed instructions for things that have no innocent explanation. It raised a question that no one had seriously considered before. Was the manuscript encrypted not because its author feared persecution, though that may have been part of it, but because the author knew what they had written was genuinely dangerous? Had someone, 6 centuries ago, deliberately buried this knowledge inside an unbreakable code, hoping the world would never be ready to read it? While the AI was working on the language, scientists were applying a separate technology to the physical pages themselves: multispectral imaging. This method uses ultraviolet and infrared light, wavelengths invisible to the human eye, to reveal details hidden beneath faded ink, erased writing, or material changes in parchment. Medieval ink, it turns out, contains iron, and iron bonds permanently with vellum at the molecular level. Even if ink fades or is scraped away, the ghost of every letter written centuries ago remains, glowing under the right kind of light. Yale University's Voynich Library had allowed a team from the Lazarus Project to scan selected pages back in 2014. Those scans sat unprocessed for a decade. When researcher Roger Easton reprocessed them in 2024, scholar Lisa Fagan-Davis noticed something extraordinary on the very first page. In the corner, nearly invisible to any normal examination, were 3 slim columns of faint writing. One column showed the Roman alphabet from A to Z. Another displayed Voynich characters alongside it. The third repeated the Roman alphabet, shifted by one letter. Davis identified the handwriting as belonging to Johannes Marcus Marci, a 17th-century scholar who owned the manuscript between 1662 and 1665. Marci had apparently been quietly attempting to crack the code himself, scribbling his attempts in the margins. He never succeeded. But his hidden annotations confirmed something critical. The manuscript was not a modern forgery. Its physical and historical record was unbroken. This book was real, ancient, and deliberately, painstakingly constructed to be unread. There is a debate happening quietly in academic circles that rarely makes it into public headlines. It is not a debate about what the Voynich Manuscript says. It is a debate about whether knowing what it says is actually a good thing. Some researchers argue that the manuscript's true value lies in the journey it has inspired. For over a century, it has pushed scientists, historians, linguists, cryptographers, and AI researchers to collaborate, innovate, and push the boundaries of what is technologically possible. Techniques developed in the attempt to decode Voynichese have applications in linguistics research, code breaking, and even medical text analysis. Perhaps, these scholars suggest, the book's real gift to the world was not the knowledge inside it, but the questions it forced us to ask. Others are not so reassuring. If parts of the manuscript contain real alchemical formulas, real medical procedures, or real ritual instructions, knowledge encoded by someone who understood exactly how dangerous it was, then releasing that information without fully understanding its context could have unpredictable consequences. The University of Chicago's Robert Richards once compared the manuscript to a language so alien to human understanding that fully grasping it could reshape the way people think. That comparison feels less abstract now. And then there's the simplest, most unsettling possibility of all. What if the person who wrote the Voynich manuscript was not trying to preserve something? What if they were trying to bury it? What if the code was never meant to be cracked? What if we just opened something that was locked for very good reason? Centuries ago, someone sat down with a quill, a bottle of iron-rich ink, and pages of carefully prepared vellum, and wrote something they did not want the world to read. They invented an alphabet. They scrambled their words. They filled the pages with plants that don't exist, and stars that don't align, and women in rituals no one has ever documented. And then they sealed it all behind a code so complex it survived every codebreaker, every linguist, and every algorithm, until now. The Voynich manuscript is not fully decoded. The AI has opened the door, not walked through it. But the first few rooms on the other side of that door have already made researchers pause. There is something in this book that was not meant to be found. Something that was hidden not because its author feared persecution, but because its author understood what they had written. Sometimes the most dangerous secrets are not the ones locked in government vaults or classified databases. Sometimes they are sitting quietly in a glass case at a university library in Connecticut, written in an alphabet no one has ever seen, waiting for the machine that is finally smart enough to read them. The question is no longer whether we can decode the Voynich manuscript. The question is what happens when we do, and whether we'll be ready for the answer. If this video left you with more questions than answers, hit subscribe, because we are just getting started. And leave a comment below. Do you think some secrets are better left buried? I'll see you in the next one.